Greetings, YouTube. Some of you folks may remember the Wasteland Stinger I made out of this piece of T steel. I don't know what the heck you would. This is a support part of a shelving unit. Obviously, it's not being used as part of a shelving unit. It's being used part of my weapons build. So it was designed to be very strong, and that's why it's a T-shape. T-shapes are really nice and stable. There's a reason I-beams are shaped like I-beams for the same reason. So it got me inspired to create a pick, but I want to be doing a very structural look of a pick. So what do I want to do? Well, I'm using a piece of, or rather not a piece, but a baluster. This is pressure treated lumber. This is going to be the striking head itself. And I'm thinking here is the full length when I'm done. And it's not going to look that long when I'm finished because it's going to have the same vibe as this does when I'm finished. So it's going to have a point, and I'm probably going to make the point more blunt on that. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the same thing because that really does cut through that hole, and that's kind of a pain in the butt. But I may do the same thing. I'm not sure. We'll see when I get some layout. And it's going to be, I'm going to cut a T-slot in the top of this, a slot in here, so this will fit into this, into a slot in here. There will be a bolt that goes all the way through this, which will be a 12-inch lagged. At the moment, it's a 24-inch piece of steel. It'll be cut in half. So there'll be a 12-inch lagged on one on each side. So that's going to go through here, and that's going to pull this way. And then the other ones will be, there'll be two other holes holding this in place. And this is going to be the support structure for making sure that the device does not have too much stress this way. Because you remember, when you're swinging a weapon like this, you're doing it in an arc. You're swinging it in an arc. And because of that, there's a lot of upward force this way when it hits. So I want that to give it support against that kind of upward support. But also, if someone hits this way in an attempt to block it, I want to make sure there's no compression force either. So this piece of steel at the minute, that may not be the one I use, but it's the one I grabbed for this demonstration purposes, is going to be what's going to create a triangle here, which is very, very stable. So this is very stable because of its T-shape, and this will be very stable because this will be a triangle. So that's all good, and that's all awesome. My only issue is that this is easy. Up here, simple. I drill a hole and I put a bolt through here, and we're good to go. Or even a rivet. It depends on my mood. So that, even though it's going to be off-centered, that's fine. It's not a problem. It's only slightly off-centered. This is the part I haven't figured out yet. I need to figure out the way to make the transition between this angle and this surface, because I really don't want to cut a slot in this because that'll weaken the overall structure. So I would prefer to mount something on the surface that would help me make that transition. And what that thing is yet, I'm not 100% sure. It may end up being a piece of angle bracket made from a bed frame, but because I can really shape that to make any kind of shape I want, which is nice, because I can customize it to the situation at hand. And because would be a piece of angle iron that I can change the shape, I can make sure that it's going to fit the width of this and compensate for the fact that this is off-centered. So everything will be as close to the center of the line of this as possible. Because again, I'm trying to get as much strength as I can out of this unit. So this you're not going to see this at all. This will be buried inside here, so this is going to be flush. I may just put 45 degrees on there just for aesthetics. We'll find out. If I haven't decided that yet. We're going to see how I'll cut the slot and make sure that it fits in there with the way I want to have it fit in there. And then if it does, I'll work the way I like. Then maybe I'll make it look pretty on the corners. We'll see. So this is going to be a very structural, mechanical kind of erector set style of a structure, which is kind of what I'm going for here. I want to build an erector set kind of a weapon. That's very similar to that vibe, and that's what I'm thinking of doing here. So we're going to see how it works. And the total investment is pretty low. was free. This is a hangover from another project. This is a hangover from another project. This was $3. So the total investment in this weapon is low, which is nice. I like that. Right? I like when things are free or low, because I've already paid for those because they were used in other projects. All right, so this is very precariously set up. This is the only thing holding this in place at the moment is the weight of the objects. But I wanted to show you how it looks in a layout, and I can't really do that with one hand. I'm holding the camera in the other. So that's what it's going to look like when I'm done. So now I need to do some, like I have to cut this in half. I got to make sure how long I want this thing. Yeah, I have to figure out. I'm going to mount this thing before I figure out that's going to be the piece, or do I have to get a slightly longer one? You know, so there's a bunch of things going on, and of course, figuring out how I'm going to come up with a bracket to make the transition between this direction and 90 degrees to this direction. So I'm knocking my components down into their pieces. So here are the two laggets. They're ready for drilling. Here is going to be the support brace. That's already cut. And I'm making the bracket for the support brace. And this is all that's left of that one particular piece of bed rail. I think I got all the good out of that one. This will just get recycled. But I have to make a cut here. And I need to cut, this is the waste. So I need to cut this off. This is a very small piece of material. There is just no good clamping surfaces on this. So what I did is I drilled the hole that I will be using to mount the bracket. The bracket will be going like that eventually. So I put that in there, and now I'm using this to hold it so I can come in with my angle grinder and cut along that line. But this is the only way I could think to hold this thing. I mean, I don't have a mill, that's the problem. If I had a mill, this would be so much easier for shaping things. But I don't have a mill. I've got this. And this is the only safe way I can think of holding this that isn't going to get me killed. These surfaces are already taken care of. I may knock that burr off her. These curved surfaces are already taken care of. And this is the last piece of waste I have to cut off for this particular bracket. In fact, because of the way I had to clamp this, when I'm done with this cut and I finish cleaning it up, this bracket is now almost complete. I still need to figure out where I'm going to need to put the other 1/4 inch hole, because I think I'm going to end up with extraneous material. So I'm going to have to figure out where the hole goes, and then I'll have to cut that off so it's at least flush with the side of the shaft. That's what I wanted to do. I don't want a piece of metal hanging off and floating in the air. So I still haven't figured out where that's going to go yet, and that is not going to be able to be done until this is mounted and I can put this, because this is going to end up being offset. So this is all coming together. I can't do one thing until I do the next thing, and I can't do that thing until I do the thing before that. So it's a bunch of steps that have to be accomplished before I can come up with some certain final measurements and such. But this one I know is going to be a permanent one, so I can go ahead and drill that right now and then use it as a mounting feature. So yeah, sometimes you got to do weird stuff. I have the point done on this. It's actually coming to a bevel. I kind of like the way that looks. It's coming to a bevel on this, so it's going to be a blade-like tip, so as it comes in it's going to go this way. I kind of like that design. It gives a little bit more meat here. I think it's going to be less likely to break. But yeah, not that I'll ever actually use this thing. But this now, I think I can use this hole, which makes my life a lot easier. I'll just have to put the bolt against this edge, so it'll be going through here in an off-center manner, but I don't care. And this is finished, and I'm going to end up having to drill a hole for the brace. And again, I don't know where that is yet, because everything is, I guess, one step after another. So we're up to now is I have a hole here that I've drilled, and now I'm going to put a slot here with a handsaw straight down, and then I have to widen that up a little so it'll accept the thickness of that support. But the first thing I need to do is come in here and be as careful as I can, drill a straight line from there to here. and that's going to give me this is going to give me a bit of a slight bit of stretch I'm going to need for this whole project to come together. And once I have all of that figured out and I get this situated where I want it, then I can drill a second hole through here, and that is going to be what holds this together like this, and holds the head in place. Now I have been playing with an idea of coming through this way with some fasteners, and I am still playing with that idea. But the problem is I don't know if I have enough space to get on either side of a. I was going to use 3-inch screws, but that's just not going to work, because I'm not going to have enough space within this body of thickness to get past the shaft that's going to be going through here, the 1/4-inch bolt that's going to be going through here, or 1/4-inch rod. So I can, once I figure it out, I may be able to use 2 shorter screws through the top here. That's still in play. I'm going to see how I like this as far as durability goes when I got the brace in place. Because once that is all set, we've got this pinned here, we've got the brace there, we've got the brace on the outer area of the striking head, and maybe that will have achieved my end of giving me the stability I want. But right now, start cutting. All the components have been cut and drilled. This has all the holes in it. The laggets have all the holes they need. The bracket I'm using as a support bracket has all its holes that it needs. That's the one that's going to go in that hole right there. And then this one right there will be going into that hole right there, all designed to help hold this thing together. So when I'm finished, the triangle will go from here to here to there. So that will be the triangle that I'm creating. It's a right angle triangle, which is pretty much the strongest I can come up with. You can have as a right angle triangle. All the holes for the laggets are in here. So now what I have to do is I have to chamfer the shaft itself. So I need to set this up on my table over there, my workbench behind me, which has got a lot more space. I just got more space to work with. I can put my vernier calipers away. They've been very, very helpful. I cannot stress enough that invest yourself in a good pair of steel vernier calipers, ones that you can use to like make little marks on stuff. Don't use plastic ones. I think they're a waste of time. You don't have to get the highest end ones in the world. You can get yourself a nice pair of Fowlers or something that aren't too expensive. Or if you get a deal like me, I got a pair of Meditoyo upstairs that are metric, which I picked up for a song at an estate sale for 20 bucks. They normally go for 150, and the package had never been used. The battery was still in its blister pack. It was awesome. The person bought them and never used them. But yeah, get yourself a decent pair of vernier calipers. You're not going to regret it. Also, get yourself a good quality little square. This is an Empire square that I have really been loving. I picked this up again at an estate sale. It's got a scratch all built in it. It's got a level built into it. It does 45s and right angles. I picked this up so many darn times now for this project. It is just so handy. So now it's time to make some tick marks so I know where I want the chamfer to begin, and then once I get that, then it's just going to be a matter of putting the 45-degree chamfer on here. So I turn my square baluster into an octagonal shaft. So that's up next. You don't need to see that because I've done that in videos before. It isn't particularly exciting, though it is kind of zen-like when you're chamfering, you're shaving off with the plane. It is quite entertaining. Alrighty, so that's up next, and then when I'm finished, one more clip, and then we'll do a final assembly. The components are ready. I have all my fasteners. This one I have to cut off once I get it mounted. This will be using a hex nut. These are all going to be using the cap nuts. And in fact, this is the last number of pat nuts I have from the ones I purchased at Fastenal. The next lot I will be using, which I just picked up from Bolt Depot. Awesome service. If you ever need fasteners, go to Bolt Depot. I ordered 200 cap nuts for 27 bucks. Home delivered, got them in 2 days. Really happy. So now it's assembly time. This hopefully will be pretty straightforward. This is all chamfered, it's nice octagonal. So now it's just to put it together, and we're going to take a final look at the skeletonized pick. So here we are, one completed skeletonized pick. So I really like this. I have to admit, I think the proportions are off by about an inch. Everything should probably be in about an inch further, that to be about an inch shorter. But I gotta tell you, after all the time and effort I've put into this thing, I've dumped like a good 5 hours into this. I'm not making any modifications to it. We're done. And I will never make one of these again. So this is what it's going to be like forever and ever. But we have the octagonal shaft, which I've really been loving so much. I really like working with these balusters, both because they are cheap, $3 a pop for pressure-treated lumber versions, and they're ubiquitous. So like in an actual post-apocalyptic setting, you could scavenge these things, and that's the kind of vibe I'm going for. All of these components are scavenged things. This is free. This is free. This is salvaged from another project. Both the laggets are salvaged from another project. The cap nuts were salvaged from another project. Obviously, you wouldn't have to use cap nuts. I just like to use cap nuts. The threaded rod was salvaged from another project. So the buy-in cost for this, for me, at this point of delivery, was close to nothing. Really, I mean, we're looking at like literally like $3 of actual money spent on this was to buy the baluster. Everything else was already in my shop, either pure salvage or this thing's leftovers from other projects. So now I'm going to take this outside because it's a nice sunny day and get some shots of this. I think I may have to use the stump on this one. It's kind of a big project. I think I can't use the other background I've been using lately. This thing is kind of large. And it has got some heft to it. It really does have some heft to it. And if you hit something with this, I can guarantee you that it's going to stay hit. This is not only going to have a lot of piercing capability, but there's just going to be a lot of pure kinetic energy dumped into that object. And it is going to be very stable because of this equilateral triangle rather not equilateral, it's right angle triangle that I've created here between these 3 points. And this is a 90 degree, I did make sure to try to get as close to 90 degrees as I could. The only wiggle room I had really in that was that after I attached this was the last fastener to go in before I tightened everything down. And I did have to push up a little bit to get that to go in. Every other hole fit nicely except for this one. These 2 holes were good. The holes in the laggets were solid, but I had to re-drill or open up the hole in the baluster a little bit for this one. There was a hole there, apparently it wasn't perfectly where I wanted it to be. So I opened that hole in, gave it a tap, and then we were all good. This is not going anywhere. Alrighty, so outside for some pictures, which I will post both at the end of this video for stills, as well as on my DeviantArt and of course on my Instagram, where you should follow me. The DeviantArt is the home of the repository of the stills from my build projects, and Instagram is where I post pictures of finds I get, things I find at thrift shops that I do and don't buy, because I find weird stuff sometimes that I'm just no interest in purchasing. As well as, of course, cute cat pictures, and who doesn't love a cute cat picture? Alright, so I hope you folks have enjoyed this build, and I hope that you'll come back for the next one.